The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm your host, Tim Calloway. I have a very special guest today that I'm really excited about talking with, Eric Haskell of the Eric Haskell Group out in Santa Barbara, Montecito area of California. Eric has been recognized with the prestigious RealTrends 1000 list. Also, he's been named as one of LA Business Journal's leaders of influence and closed over $200 million in sales for 2021, including what I'm really interested in hearing about, if he's got the time, a record-breaking sale in Montecito. Welcome to the show, Eric Haskell. Eric, how are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
Thank you for
all the accolades, awesome, sounds great. But how'd you get started? Let's just start at the beginning.
Well, there wasn't really a straight line to where I got going. I was in a completely different business. I had a couple. I worked in tech for a little while after graduating from college, and then I decided I couldn't work for other people. I had a really hard time being an employee, and so I started a bunch of different businesses, from in the tech space to the art space to the furniture to then it became art curation, furniture curation. I come from a family where there's a lot of art dealers and furniture dealers, and so that was just in my blood. So I studied art and architecture in college along with business, which was kind of a good combo for where I ended up. But I was basically going and shopping at auctions in Paris and all these places all over the world and finding like furniture pieces or art for some pretty big time clients I had. So I would go in their house, and a lot of the houses I was working on were in Montecito, but that then extended out to LA and New York and a bunch of other places. So I was in all these houses. I could speak the language, and for some reason I always had this curiosity about getting into real estate. And I had thought more about being in real estate as doing my own developments or my own design. And there was a natural disaster in Montecito. There's a giant flood that washed through the city, and it really affected my business because about 80% of the clients whose houses I were working on were affected by the flood.
Wow.
So I went from, kind of what I would say was a thriving business to, oh crap, what am I going to do?
Right.
And I had a real estate license for nearly 10 years and I never used it. I never hung it with any brokers. I just had it. It was just kind of something I got. And I always in the back of my mind thought, I feel like I could do really well at this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, I started to kind of just scramble to make things happen. I have, two very little kids at that time, a wife and, a mortgage and all these things that I have to figure out.
Right.
So I started talking to some of my clients, and I talked to one client in particular who's a big time that buys and sells big time houses in Montecito, LA, all these places. I was just like, hey, this is a really random question, but you have all these beautiful houses. I have all these amazing clients from my other business. Would you ever let me show one of your houses if you wanted to sell it? Could I ever? And she's like, I'm not going to give you a listing agreement, but I've known you long enough. I know you know how to talk about my house, but you also I know you've never sold real estate. So like, I'm not going to give you a listing agreement, but I'm going to allow you to show my houses. And so I'd go to two of these houses, and I knew them both really well because I had worked on them in another capacity.
Mhm.
And one was, I mean, they're both kind of dream houses for any real estate agent to work on, but
Right.
for my first opportunity. So I got in there and I was just on the hustle. And so I just started calling people, and I'm like, I have these two off market properties. And they're like, wait, you're a real estate agent now?
Right. Wait, we put the hat on, you know?
Yeah.
Real quick.
You're like, we know you. Yeah, we'll go with you to check it out. So I ended up showing these properties, like, one of them was a $10 million property. I showed it like 9 times over the course of a week to clients. And then the other one was a $34 million property. And I showed it like maybe 6 times. And she's like, wow, you showed it more in the past week and a half than my agent showed it all of last year.
Wow.
When it was on the market.
Wow.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. I was, it was all new to me. So I thought, like, I hope this is, I hope I'm being effective. But I got into the 2 houses, and one of the clients was like, I'm seriously interested in this property, and I want to bring my parents back to see it. So, I called the client and I was like, look, the parents are coming back. Like, the house was kind of mid-construction. I'm like, is there any way we could put some lawn down? Because it was 6 acres and it was just dirt in the middle of a remodel. And like the next day there was like 100 guys laying sod on this big sprawling property, and it was already transforming before my eyes. And a couple days later, the parents came, they saw it, and I ended up selling it for $11 million. I went through, I guess it was sink or swim. I just kind of got into it. I was helped by, I was kind of mentored through the process with an agent who turned out to be a really close friend of mine, who's a great guy, great agent. And so I closed that deal, and I was like, okay, I kind of had I really enjoyed the process, and I enjoyed the challenge. And I was like, I think there's something here. I think I'm going to try and make a career out of this. So I basically started just putting myself out there as I could do real estate transactions, because my clients already trusted me for everything else I was doing, and my, kind of insights and my taste and whatnot, fortunately. And people just started giving me opportunities. And with every opportunity, I was like, okay, what is my business all about? And I wanted it to feel different than what everyone else was doing. And so I said, okay, I'm going to produce like really artistic, interesting videos when I get a listing. I need to leverage these opportunities. And so that first big listing I got, I put a lot of thought into the video I was going to do. It actually got out there, and a lot of people saw it, and a lot of people came to me, and they're like, I really like how you presented that home. I want to meet with you. So it's just it just started going. And still to this day, my right-hand man, he went to NYU film school, and a big part of our business is really marketing these properties in a more elevated way. And I think that's led to our continued momentum in real estate.
Nice. That's a real, I hear a lot of baptism by fire stories, right? A lot of folks, how they kind of just walked right into it, and it was like, yeah. 11 million baptism by fire stories are awesome.
I'm very grateful. Trust me.
Yeah.
Think about that moment where I asked for that opportunity and how uncomfortable I was doing that.
Yeah.
Because people are kind of like, they're not super comfortable when you change, all of a sudden you're doing something else or you're someone else. It kind of screws with their mind, and they're like, wait a second. Anyways, it's a different dynamic, but I'm glad I took that risk, and I'm glad I'm very grateful I got that opportunity. Yeah. And here we go.
Definitely is paid off, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So let's talk about the area that you're in. Now, you encompass, pretty much all of the Santa Barbara and surrounding areas. Is that it, or you said
Yes.
you had homes in LA and sold some stuff in New York? Is it mainly, in those metropolitan areas, or you focus on?
Yes. So my main area is Montecito, is where I do a lot of Santa Barbara, Montecito. That's, I grew up in that area, so I just know it super well. My family's been there for 4 generations.
Just a beautiful area. If anybody
Yeah,
hasn't been, I mean,
yeah, there's nowhere quite like it. So
no,
um that's my main focus, but I do, I do a lot of deals along the coast. I do a lot of deals in Malibu. I've done some major deals in Beverly Hills, the west side of Los Angeles. A lot of my listings and a lot of my clients are reoccurring clients, and I end up
nice.
representing a number of homes in their portfolio.
Right. I would ask that, I spent a lot of time training people up in San Luis Obispo and south of there, all
Uh-huh.
the way down to Los Angeles. Another beautiful area for those of you who have not been there.
Oh yeah.
But I would definitely recommend taking that journey. But my question was, when I would travel from East Coast to West Coast, and there would be a stark difference in how agents, no matter what kind of agent they were, it could be in other areas, investments, retail. There's a stark difference in how to market to them. Now you take it that next level, right? With the filmography and really elevating, as you said, the marketing of the home. Do you see yourself as kind of a next level agent when it comes to that, or is that the trend? I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. You see a more trend, especially in the luxury home market.
Well, I think that's always a discussion we're having on a daily basis with my team,
Mhm.
is how do we kind of ramp this up? What is the new thing we need to be doing? How do we engage more with the audience? And that can be anything from, because when you're dealing with something like social media, something highly produced sometimes is suppressed on social media because their algorithms elevate what they
Right,
consider authentic content.
right,
So sometimes we are kind of jostling between, are we going to do something highly produced? Are we going to do something more authentic? Or are we going to do a combination of the two so we can grab kind of different demographics? I like to think that, our videos are next level. I like to think that our presentation is next level. I just know on a daily basis how much thought and work we put into basically branding these properties. And so we're super passionate about it. And I watch everything that's out there, and I'm kind of I see things, I'm like, wow, that was really impressive what that person did. But I don't want to brand, I don't want to be biased and brand ourselves as next level, but in terms
right.
of
But
marketing, but I honestly think we do some of the most unique marketing out there. And I think, we got nominated for the Inman Award for best marketing of a luxury property last year.
right,
And that's our focus, is we want to be we want, when we get an opportunity to represent a really special property, we just want to blow it out of the park with our marketing and really tell the people why they were correct in hiring us. It's
yeah.
very important to us.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend anybody who's listening, and I'm going to tell you right now, Eric, I truly believe listeners right now, their ears are burning. Because let's face it, marketing isn't easy. I had a guest on earlier this morning who still does door hangers, and they're in a
Right.
different part of the country, and it's a different market, and we understand all those things. But in this industry, it's very important to be innovative. And if you're listening now, I would definitely recommend, and Eric may have some other advice, going to his site. erichaskellgroup.com and looking at the videos that are on this site, they're telling me a story, right? I know the area, and they're really telling me a story, and it actually kind of gives you warm fuzzies, right? And isn't that what you're trying to create?
That is what we're trying to create. We're trying to elicit emotion when people watch the video, but for like, there's so many different things. Like it's so like for me personally, and I know for a lot of people, it's so uncomfortable to put yourself out there in social media. I mean, I can't even tell you, I've recorded things with my team and they're like, where I'm on camera, I'm just like, delete it. Like,
Right.
No, it's fine. Just put it out there. And I'm like, oh God, this is, I can't even, it's really a weird feeling to put yourself out there in that way. But people want to engage with,
Sure.
They want to engage, they want to see, they want to be involved. It's interesting to know, the inside world of what's going on out there. And with that, it's uncomfortable. So I think a big part of, and you listen to a lot of, I listen to podcasts with other agents and people at my company and people I work with. Like, you have to just get super comfortable with being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there. And
for sure.
And trust me, like probably 70% of the things we've shot, I'm just like, I'm too uncomfortable. But we're getting better and better at it.
Yeah, over time that kind of dissipates. Trust me, I'm 52 years old, and I'm at this point, I'm like, okay, I still have hair, good, check.
Yeah.
I'm not totally blind, check. So you look for the positive
victory.
Yeah, the little victories, right? So
Yeah.
let's get a little more granular about your life. You have a family.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that I know listeners are always interested in, they like to hear about the balance, right? I mean, balancing what you do and the time you spend. Being in the retail side of it is, some people say it's a 7-day a week, 24-hour a day proposition for them, and you integrate family. How has that worked for you in your years with your family?
That's always, that is one of the biggest learning processes I've gone through, because I think we came in and things started happening hot and heavy, and like when stuff is clicking and you want it to keep going and you want to build your business, and especially when you're in that business building phase, it's kind of like you kind of have to be obsessive with it, but also it's finding that balance is so new, and you're in an industry where people demand your time constantly.
Right.
They want you to be available all the time. And I think what I've especially learned in the last year is that sometimes I just have to turn my notifications off.
Yeah.
I have to just tell someone, like, I'll get back to them in an hour. I'm with my family. I need, like when I get to have quality time with my family and also downtime, I come back so much stronger. And if you don't do that, you burn out. And even with, like, I talk to newer agents or friends of mine who are just getting into the business, and they're grinding and they're trying to get it going, and they're frustrated and they're obsessing about trying to get their business started. And I'm like, well, you gotta, like, the more you get out there in the world and enjoy your life and meet people and have a rich life, you're gonna bring that to your business, and it's gonna make you. There's an energy that people put off, like when they're anxious to get business, and if you are stuck in that mindset, like it can be kind of a turnoff. I watch people. It's like you want the listing so bad, or you want the buyer to buy something so bad, and you kind of lose track of that energy you're putting off can
the vibe.
Actually,
it's the vibe, right?
It's your vibe. So
yeah.
So you have to have work-life balance. You have to be. I think that for us, and some of the feedback I've had from clients of mine is that it's if I try not to be in how I treat people. I try not to be like I'm selling them something. I try and just be consult them, be an advisor, be a friend, be someone they trust in the decisions they make. And when you're coming from that place, I think that you're serving your clients, yourself, everyone much better than if you're coming from a place of, I need to get a deal done, I need to pay my bills, which is also very important also,
Sure.
of course. But that's a real challenge. But in terms of work-life balance, I've really, that's been a huge thing for me in the last year. And I feel honestly like last year was an amazing year for me. This year has been a great year as well, but just the balance I'm finding right now in my life, and I'm getting everything done I need to get done, but I think I'm a better version of myself and for my family, for myself, for my clients by finding balance. It's a long answer to it.
No, it's excellent answer, and I couldn't agree more. Quick curveball question, I guess. Would you recommend someone new coming into the business? And everyone, obviously on the Icons podcast, most people we talk to have been very successful, doing very well. And one of the things we talk about is either people on their team coming in new or giving advice to someone who's just got their license. They're so excited and they come in with some preconceived notions. Like I always say, they watch too much TV, right?
Yeah.
They watch too much A&E or HDTV, and they're like, I'm just going to sell that $10 million house. Would you recommend to anyone listening to the show who's just up and coming or just starting to work in an area like you do? Or do they cut their teeth somewhere else and learn the business and then move into that? And that's kind of a tricky question because I know it's different for everybody, but I'd love to hear your take.
Well, I think you have to decide who you want to be in the business. Like for me, I was like, if I'm going to get into real estate, I want to do high-end luxury real estate. That's what I'm going to do. I understood the space. I understood architecture. I was hyper focused on going in that direction. And when I talk to young agents, I'm always like, decide who you want to be as an agent, but also there's people that almost it's like a mental thing where they feel like I could never be that guy that represents luxury real estate, or I could never be that woman that represents luxury.
Right.
They almost talk themselves out of it, and it's like it's not even about the opportunities, it's about them trusting in themselves that that's where they're going to be. So they maybe put themselves, I'm going to deal in lower end homes, or I'm going to I want to stay in the middle, which is you could build a great business there too. So, but it's really just deciding where you want to be. And the next step is my story is super unusual. Like
right.
And a lot of people are like, you just kind of came out of nowhere. It's like with real estate, I kind of did, but the relationships I built were over the course of 20 years.
Right.
So really it was, it was a 20-year overnight success.
That network was in place and you brought it, to that new career.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So for young agents, I think it's invaluable if you can work with a top producing agent for at least at the beginning of your career, and you're engaging with the clients, and you're in these homes, and you're seeing how they work, how they operate, how they prepare. I think that experience is invaluable. The people on my team are like coming in and they're in $40 million homes, $160 million homes, and they're on the ground and they're engaging with the sellers. They're engaging with the buyers. They're seeing how it works. They're part of a media presentation. It's like going to grad school and like really
getting that
honing your craft.
Yeah. Getting that next tier education, right?
Yeah. So I would recommend to anyone, and I'm always super impressed when young agents reach out to me and they're just like, like I would do anything, like I'll work for you, I'll intern with you, and they have that hunger and desire.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I'm just like, I love that you're not being short-sighted. Like you want to put in the grind a little bit to build a career. And I'm like, you're a hustler. Like I really appreciate that. And when pretty much everyone who's ever reached out to me, maybe I don't have a space on my team or whatever, but I'll always say, give me a call. If you ever need advice, call me. Like I'm totally an open book when it comes to that, because I know it takes a lot of it takes a lot of nerve just to reach out to people and actually, try and make something happen. To be honest with you, I'm surprised more people don't reach out to us and are like, hey, I'll work with you guys. But whenever they do, I'm like, I'm an open book. Come meet with me. Let's go have lunch. Let's have coffee. And a lot of times it's like someone will come and they're 22, they're out of college, they watch $1 Million Listing, they want to hear a real estate agent, and I'm like, let's go get coffee. Let's talk about, like, maybe not. There's nothing right now, but I want to see how your career progresses. Like, we just had a kid who came from Sweden, and he was going to UCLA, and he came to us. He's like, well, I'll do anything. Like, what do you want me to do? And we're like, do you want to go door knocking in this neighborhood? He's like, sure, I'll do whatever.
Wow.
And this kid, English is his second language. I think he probably saw Frederick Eklund like killing it here, and he's like, I can do that too.
Right.
But I was so impressed so the first day he's like talking. He's okay. He's like, okay, I'm gonna get an Uber to that neighborhood. I'm gonna walk it all day. I'm like, oh, you don't have a car? He's like, no, I don't care. I'll Uber, and then I'll just walk the whole neighborhood all day. So the kid hopped in an Uber. Worked for 8 hours knocking on doors, and I'm just like, man, you're gonna make it. Like you're a hustler, and your ego's not involved in this. You're just want to go out there and do it.
You can't falsely create that in someone, no matter what industry it is, but in real estate especially. You can't, someone comes off the streets and they come in with that mentality of, I'm just going to be great, which is fine, have confidence. But if they don't realize that it takes real boots on the ground work, and you can't just tell someone, hey, this is the way it's going to be, and they're going to go, oh, okay. It just doesn't work that way. It's got to be instilled in them, and you see it pretty quick. So I think that's great. Well, Eric, we're kind of winding down here. I'd like to give everybody kind of the last word on, anything that we didn't cover or anything you want to have to say. How do they get in contact with you, whether they want to go have that cup of coffee, or, maybe there's somebody out there that wants to list or buy through you, or any thoughts that we didn't cover?
I think we covered quite a bit, but our website is erichaskellgroup.com. You can go on there, reach out if you have any questions. I think that we're just going into an interesting time right now. We're in kind of a changing market. And I think for anyone who's, because I know I listened to a lot of podcasts when I was starting my career, I find it super helpful and educational. I think that this is not as easy of a time as maybe it was the past few years, but it's also it's a great time to start building your brand in a more challenging market, putting yourself out there, because a lot of agents will fall off. Right. And if you start to be that guy, even if you're not doing a ton of business at the beginning, that if you're that guy or gal who's putting themselves out there, that's on social media, that's showing and creating a presence out there, and people will start to trust you. And it might not be today, and it might not be tomorrow, it might be 3 years from now, but you will position yourself for that next big run. Nice. And just like keep at it and ask questions, join a team, just get in the mix. Like don't like stop. People are like, I can't figure out what headshot. It doesn't matter. Like, just like stop trying to be a perfectionist. Just do something every day to build your business. Right. And I guess that I could leave it at that.
Hey, that's great advice.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to unpack for anybody who's listening to the show. Eric, thanks so much for being on the show. EricHaskellGroup.com. I strongly suggest you go to the site. You might end up buying an estate, after watching
Even
these
better.
films. Beautiful site. Looks great. You're doing a great job. Good advice for everybody. I look forward to talking to you again and watching your journey as well.
Okay, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Okay, talk to you later.